Hello and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and a very happy Star Wars Day to you all. May the 4th be with you and all that. Now, those of you who follow us on Twitter will already be aware that, because we trailed this earlier on, that we're going to be attempting this beautiful looking puzzle called That's No Moon by the constructor G in today's video. This has got amazing reviews over on our Discord server, and you know, it is just a work of art with these TIE fighters emerging from the Death Star. And in fact, I thought the Empire may have thwarted my ability to record a video today because they turned off the electricity to our entire local area earlier on this afternoon, which was a bit of a disaster, but I'm pleased to report that the power to destroy my ability to use the computer is insignificant next to the power of the Sudoku force. So we're up and running and ready to go. Now, if you are a fan of Star Wars, you should certainly be aware of Philip Newman's Star Wars puzzle pack, which he's created to commemorate today. And what we'll do actually is I'll make that available free over on our Patreon page. So just go over to Patreon. I'll try and remember to put a link on the screen now. Download. It's a pack of about 7 puzzles, I think. All of them very cool. Some absolutely beautiful graphics, and yeah, there's all sorts of goodies in there for you to have a go at. Now, I need to say happy birthday today. It's a very good day to have a birthday indeed, Star Wars Day, so happy birthday to Ben. It's your 28th birthday, and that's from your partner Nell. And in fact, Ben, I fancy being called Ben and having a birthday on Star Wars Day. You are a propitious person indeed, so I hope you have a super day. What else is going on? Loads is the answer. There is so much going on. Yesterday we released Demono's setting video on how he constructed Taco Bowl 3, one of the great Sudokus we've tried on the channel in recent times. It's full of insights into the process that these brilliant setters go through. I definitely recommend it to you, and I'm really pleased to tell you that we have lots more setters videos in the pipeline, so it's going to become something of a playlist, I think, in the coming weeks and months. Also, of course, over on Patreon we have May's monthly reward, which is this extraordinary Sudoku hunt created by Matches Martinka. You know, that there is something for everybody there, and it is a wonderful collection of puzzles. And last night, in fact, to commemorate the final of the World Snooker Championship, I did finally get round to trying Apayo's sort of celebration puzzle. There's a lot of rules in that one, but it's a very fun puzzle, so that's also available for you over on Patreon right now. And with that, let's get on with this one. What are the rules? I will read them to you. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Along thermometers, digits must increase from the bulb end. Now, as I'm staring at this, I'm realizing I am probably going to have to get rid of the graphics here, because otherwise I will not be able to see the thermometers well enough. Right, so what we're saying here is, let's pick this square. This is the bulb end of a thermometer. Let's make it a 2. So as we move along the thermometer, we have to treat the digits a bit like Mercury. So this square's got to be higher than 2. It doesn't have to be 3. That could be 5, for example. Then that square would have to be higher than 5, and this square would have to be higher than 5. So that's how your TIE fighters work. Now, what else have we got? Along grey lines, which I think must be the dark grey lines rather than the sort of thermometer lines. Adjacent digits must have a difference of at least 5. Right, so this is German whispers, which we have done a few times on the channel before. It is a baffling rule, to be honest. I have zero intuition about how it works normally. But what we need to know, let's imagine that square was a 3. We now need to make sure that both of those squares are 5 different, at least, from 3. So you could see this square could be a 9, this square could be an 8. But in fact, if this was a 3, those would be the only options for these two squares. They would have to be an 8-9 pair, because you must make sure that each digit is at least 5 away from the digit it's next to. So that's how German whispers rules work. So you can see we've got sort of the Death Star outline is a German whispers line, and then this line going across here I think is a German. Oh, that's the trench, isn't it? That's the trench that they try to release the photon torpedoes or whatever it is into. So that's one German whispers line. This is the other. And it does look like there's only 2. Now, digits joined by white dots must be consecutive. So we've got two small sort of crop key relationships there. So if you put, I don't know, if you put 2 in there, that square's got to either be 3 or 1. So that's how that works. And then not all dots are given, so it's perfectly fine for there to be other dominoes in the grid that contain consecutive digits. And the digit in the grey circle must be odd. So this is sort of the that thing that the laser comes out of the Death Star. It's been shrunk for the purposes of Sudoku here, and this is an odd digit. So, with all that said, let's see if we can complete the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs. And do have a go at this. The way to play is to click the link under the video. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now, question 1. Do I have any tips for German whispers? Yes, I sort of do. What I like to do, and I'm not saying this is a good method, but it's what I like to do, is to try and identify, like on this long Death Star line, let's highlight every other cell like this. We'll put those in purple, and then if we pick the cells between those purple cells like that and make those green. Now what we're looking to do basically is to try and work out the parity of this line. And what do I mean by that? Well, one thing about a German whispers line is it can never contain a 5. In fact, that's where we should start, isn't it? That is where we should start. I am such a drongo. Right, row 5 of the grid. Where does 5 go? Well, it cannot go on a German whispers line, so it cannot go in any of those squares, and it must be here. Sorry, I should have seen that instantly. I didn't. That square's a 4 or a 6. But why can't you put a 5 on a German whispers line? Well, it's of course because you can't put a 0 or a 10 into a Sudoku, and given that each adjacent square needs to be at least 5 different from the sort of the adjacent square, you can see the problem immediately with 5 on a German whispers line. So let's go back to the colouring and what we're talking about here. We know that if this square, for example, was a low digit, and by low digit I mean a 1, 2, 3 or a 4, we know the cell next to it has to be 6, 7, 8 or 9. And then the cell next to that has to go back to being 1, 2, 3 and 4 again. So the line sort of oscillates up and down. And this is... So normally German whispers puzzles are about trying to identify, you know, we have to get one cell on this ring and find out just whether it's high or low. But I'm not sure how to do that. There's something... The only other point I'll make here is that there is an interesting distinction between row 2, column 2 and row 7, column 7. Doesn't look like it's very restricted, but you can see row 2, column 2 is basically at the end of its thermometer, which would suggest it ought to be a high digit. Whereas row 7, column 7 is in the bulb of its thermometer, which would suggest, on balance, it was going to be a low digit. So there is a tension between these two cells, which we probably need to make use of somehow. But the other thing I'm wondering about is this row 5 again, because there is another tip I have for German whispers which relates to 4s and 6s, especially where the German whispers line is straight or it's in the same box of the Sudoku, because let's think about where we can put 4 and 6 on this line, and the answer is you could only put it in the ends, because if you try and put a 4 or a 6 in any of the middle segments here, you will run into a big problem. Because what do we put next to a 6 on a German whispers line? Well, there's only one choice, 1, and that would lead to double 1, which would break the puzzle. So don't do that. No, right, okay, right. This is important. This is actually very important, because what I hadn't spotted when looking at this straight German whispers line horizontally is that if we look at vertical German whispers lines, especially in these two positions, we have the same effect on 4 and 6. You can't put 4 and 6 in either of those two squares. If you try it, you'll run into the identical problem. You'll have to put 1 in both surrounding squares, and you'll break the rules of Sudoku. So now a good question is, where do 4 and 6 go in row 5? And the answer is only at the ends of the German whispers lines. And that means the cells next to them have to be the 1 and the 9, because we know the 6 must be next to the 1, wherever the 6 lives, and the 4 must be next to the 9. Now, we still don't know which one is high and which one is low, though. So we can't colour this line yet. Right, yeah, okay, but now yes, this is lovely. This is absolutely lovely. Right, now let's come to this square. This square is either 4 or 6. So can this square ever be 6 or higher? And clearly it can't. If you try and make this square a 6, 7, the minimum this square needs to be is 8, which it cannot be. So this square, in fact, must be low, and that means purple is low, and that gives us the opportunity to good lift the German whispers line. All of those squares are 1, 2, 3, 4. All of the green squares are 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I don't like doing that, but it's in German whispers it might not be a bad idea. I think I will leave it because I am so prone to missing things in this variant. Now, let's have a quick scan. So now, do I now know what this? Still don't know what this is, do I? It could be 4 or 6. That can't be 4. And that can't be 6 because we've got the 4, 6 pair in the row. There's a 1 here, so that can't be 1. Right, so now those two squares are suddenly restricted. Not a lot, but a little. Oh, no, they're actually... Sorry. Well, they're also restricted by the fact there's a 4, 6 pair there, which I hadn't seen. But we can get rid of 6 now, because once this square can't be a 1, you can't put a 6 next to it on the German whispers line. And obviously, you could have got rid of that 6 using that pair, but I just didn't see it. Now... 9 can't go there, so this one's become a 7 or an 8. Now you can't put 4 next to this square here. If you do, you need to put a 9 next to it, and you can't in this square. So this now becomes 1, 2, or 3. Beautiful. Right, so now we can make use of the tension between the TIE fighters. This TIE fighter cockpit is low, and that's what we'd expect it to be. This TIE fighter tip is low, and we wouldn't expect that. You can now see this cannot be a 1 or a 2, because if it's a 1 or a 2, you have to put 0 in the cockpit. That won't work. So this is 3 or 4. Well, it's not 4, I can tell you that, because it's in the middle of a German whispers line. And if it's 4, you'd have to put 9 in both of those squares, so it's 3. Which means we can actually fill that in with 3, 2, 1. Lovely. This one sees that 9. Which is going to give us, that's gorgeous. Right, so now we know the parity of this line. Because that's high, and that's high. And high is green. Therefore, those must turn purple. And we have a very strange looking grid. 9 is now eliminated, look, from that cell. Which makes it this square has to be 8. Because it has to be 5 different at least from 3. So that's an 8. That's not 8, therefore. That square is a 9 because it's got effective... I suppose once we knew this was a 3, we knew this was an 8-9 pair. And then this 9 told us the order, so we could have done that slightly differently and more efficiently. But as ever, I didn't. Now, this square can't be 9 because it's partially along a thermometer. So the 9 now in box 7 of the grid is definitely in one of 2 places, not 3. This can't be 4 now because it can't be next to a 9. And this is the thing about German whispers. You get this weird propagation, which is very hard, at least for me, to keep track of. Now that's a 1, so that can't be 1. So this now can't be next to a 6. So again, we can eliminate some more digits. Now, can we go further than that? Yes, we can, you know, because this 7, 8 is on a thermometer. Yeah, this is lovely. Okay, so what on earth are we putting into this square? Well, we have to put a digit that's higher than 7 or 8, so it's going to have to be 8 or 9, and it can't be 9. Ergo, it's 8, which means this is 7, this is 7, this is 7. And that's really nice. So now we've got a 4, 5, 6 triple in box 1. Now, okay, so what we can conclude from this is there must be a 5 on the Kropki dot, because if there isn't, this would be a 4, 6 pair and it wouldn't be consecutive. So we can eliminate 5 from this square. There's definitely a 5 here. There's definitely a 5 in one of those squares. Now, what next? We can... right, this is lovely. There's a 7 here. So 7 can never go next to 3 on a German whispers line. That gives us a 1, 2 pair. And that's going to fix the bottom of this column, because now I've got to put 1 in one of those squares. Well, I can't put 1 at the end of a thermometer that includes a 7, can I? So then 1 must go at the bottom. That must be the 9. We can eliminate 9 from those squares, therefore eliminate 4 from the German whispers lines. And 2, so 2 is in one of 3 positions. This square here must be a 4, 5 or a 6 by Sudoku. And this TIE fighter is not going to help us, because this 2 is obviously not close enough to the 4, 5 and 6 to really influence it. Okay, well that's still, I feel like that is good progress. Now let's have a look at this line here, because we now know this line, of course. Once I got the 9 and the 1, I think I got distracted, because I could have easily filled in the 4 and the 6. Oh dear, I know some people will have been shouting at me about that. Never mind. That's a 4, so there's now a 4 in one of those squares, which means there's a 4 in one of these 2 squares at the bottom. This 6 is now placing a 4 in box 6. There's now a 4 in one of those 3 cells. Now, can we rule it out of the end of this thermometer? That would be 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure I can, actually. I might have to leave that in there as possible. This one is eliminating a 1 from that one, which eliminates a 6 from the German whispers lines next to it. So this cell suddenly become restricted, look. And you can't put a 4 next to an 8, so we can get rid of a 4 from this one. Okay. Right, so now let's look at this row again, because the green cell here has to be an 8 because it's high and it's not 6, 7 or 9, which means this square is a 2 or a 3, and that's going to be next to an 8 or a 9, therefore we don't know how this... We don't know what this one is, but this 8 might be nice. No, it doesn't seem to do anything. Okay, now I feel like I might be getting stuck, which is not a good feeling. 3s, 5s and 6s into those squares. 3 must be in one of those 2 positions. This 3 is seeing that square, forcing it to be a 2. So we can get rid of 2 from those 2 squares. Now the interesting thing is there's a little bit of pressure on this TIE fighter's cockpit, because it cannot be 1 or 2, so it's at least equal... no, it can't be 3. Whoa, so this is at least 4. So this is at least 5, and this is at least 6, so it's definitely not 4. 4, 5, 6. Not sure actually whether I can do much with that. It limits this digit a little bit. So let's just work out what this digit can't be now. This digit can't be 5, because if this digit was 5, these 3 squares would be 5 or higher, and these 3 squares would be 5 or higher. Well, let me tell you, here is a knowledge bomb from Cracking the Cryptic. There are only 5 digits in Sudoku that are 5 or higher, so you can't make this a 5. Now, it's not a 1 or a 2, so that's a 3 or a 4. In fact, there's that square. So they've got a 3, 4 pair now in row 3. Which doesn't seem to do very much. 5, 6, 7 and 8 to complete this row. Ah, that's odd, isn't it? 5, 6, 7 and 8. So that's 5 or 7. Yeah, that makes sense because it can't be 1, 3 or 9. So this is just 5 or 7 now. And can we do something with that? I'm not sure. I feel like I ought to be able to do something with that. Ones are very restricted in box 2. Look, just by Sudoku of all things. Well, and a little bit using the thermometer. So 1 has to be in one of 2 places. No, we can do much better than that. Let's not ask about box 2. Let's ask about column 4. Where does the 1 go in column 4? It's not here, apparently. We know this is at least a 4, so these 2 squares definitely can't be 1. These can't be 1s, so I think only this top square can be a 1. Which means probably not very much, but let's... This is a 3 or a 4, that's at least a 5. So again, 2 is a little bit restricted in this column. 2 is either in this cell or in this cell. That's not a 2 anymore. I feel like I'm getting stuck here. This is not a good feeling. It was all going so well. And now I have very much the sense of these are not the digits we're looking for. Where am I meant to be looking? Normally, when I get stuck on German Whispers, it's because I've not actually used the German Whispers rules as much as I possibly can. So let's just double check. Is there a deduction? Yeah, here we go. Right, this is at least 3. So you can't put 7 next to it. Good grief, Simon, come on. Although that actually doesn't seem to have done anything. 8, that can't be 8. This one, no, this one's okay. This one could be 3 because that one can still be 9, that one can still be 8. Oh dear. So we're going to have to think harder. What are we missing? 3 has to be in one of those 3 squares. 4's in one of these squares. Maybe come back to this 3, 4 pair. What was it I needed to put in here? 5, 6, 7 and 8. So this is 5, 6 or 7. That's a little bit interesting because now 8 has to be in one of those squares in box 3, which means 8 is in one of those 2 squares in box 2. It's nearly good, it's just not quite good. Well, appropriately enough, there is an X-wing on 3s in row 3 and row 5, look. That would be extremely cool if that cracked open the puzzle, and it would be extremely cool, and I'm somewhat disappointed that there is no 5 as an option in any of these squares, because then there could have been a red 5 resolving the, an X-wing with Luke Skywalker in it, on top of the Death Star resolving the puzzle, which would have been absolutely amazing. But let's just... So what do I mean by an X-wing? Well, what I mean is in row 3, the 3 is definitely in one of those 2 cells. In row 5, the 3 is definitely in one of those 2 cells. And this has a profound effect on the column normally when you find an X-wing, and these 2 columns. And the way to understand that is to ask simple questions, simple and facetious questions. If we knew the answer to this puzzle, how many 3s would we find? If we filled in a perfect solution, how many 3s would we have found in column 4? 1. How many 3s would we have found in column 8? 1. So there are exactly 2 3s in all of those cells. But we know that row 3 is contributing a 3 to one of those 2 columns. And we know that row 5 is contributing a 3 to one of those columns. So the 2 3s that must exist in column 4 and column 8 must be provided by these 2 rows, and therefore you cannot have any 3s in any more positions in these columns. None of those squares can be 3s, and that might be important. Let us stare at that and see if that does anything. Let me just have a think about this. So, no, actually, maybe it doesn't matter. Oh, that's really... I'd love it if an X-wing resolved this. That would be beautiful. I can't see what the effect of this is doing. So either you're going to end up with a 3 here and a 3 here, or a 3 here and a 3 here. No, a simpler way of looking at this isn't... Well, it is important to think about that. So either we know there'll be a 3 here and a 3 here, or a 3 here and a 3 here. But what happens if that's a 4? You've broken the puzzle immediately. You can immediately see the problem with this being a 4 is that this square is a 9 because of the German whispers rule. And once you go 4... sorry, let me show you. Once you go 4... It's all going wrong. Once you go 4 here, and you go 9 here, now this square has to be a 7. Now what are we going to put in this square now? And the answer is problematic, because you can't put 3 in here, because it's got to be 5 different from this 7. And if you put 2 in here, we've now not managed to put a 3 in either of those 2 X-wing cells. But we know that the 3s are either in this arrangement or this arrangement, so this is broken. And now another way of thinking about this would be to say, well, where are the 3s going in these 2 rows? Well, they've both got to go in column 4, and that breaks the puzzle. That's really clever. That's really clever, but not easy. So actually, we had to ignore the normal effect of the X-wing and think about the effect of the German whispers line in conjunction with the X-wing, which is logic you don't see every day. But it will allow us to eliminate 4 from this square. So this is now a 3, which means the X-wing is completed in that direction. That places a 4 here. This square must be a 2. That doesn't resolve those. It doesn't resolve this. Oh, well, okay. We seem to have died a bit of a death doing that, but at least we got something out of it. 2 in column 4 is now forced, look, because those 2 squares have to be higher than 4. These 3 squares have to be at least 5, so the only place 2 can go is in the bottom of the grid. 2 is now in one of those 2 positions in box 9, and I can see which one, because I can't put 2 at the end of a thermometer here, because 1, this would have to be a 0, which is impossible, so the 2 goes here. Which means that there's a 2 in one of those cells. And that means what exactly? The answer is I don't know. Okay, so now we have to pause, I think, and have a think again. 8 is a little bit restricted in box 6. It's got to be in one of those 2 cells. Those 2 squares are higher than 4, but we don't have much of a grip on this column other than knowing where its high digits are. Oh dear, this is going wrong. 2s are nearly restricted in this box, look. You can't put 2 in any of those squares. So 2 is, I think, locked into one of 3 positions. We might have to come... okay, let's come back to German whispers. Everything matters. This 2 is seeing this square, which now can't be a 6. That gives us a 7-8 pair in row 8, sorry. Does that matter? Yes, it does. Of course it does. Now this square can't be a 3. Good grief. Because if it's a 3, you have to make both of those squares equal to 8. I could have got that before, actually. The moment 9 was eliminated from these squares, this square was a 1. I just didn't spot it. So now 1 can't go at the end of the thermometer. 1 must go here. 1 must go there, by the looks of it, pencil marking. That places a 2 at the top of the grid. This square is no longer a 2. Now this time I'm going to concentrate, because this 2 being eliminated from this square removes 7 as a possibility from there. So that's now a 9. That can still be 8 or 9. And 9... Right, okay, 9 in box 8 can't be partially along a thermometer. So 9 is in one of those 2 cells, which means 9 is in one of these 2 cells, which probably doesn't do much. Oh dear. Okay. 7, 8. So maybe this row we should look at next. 3, 4, 5, and 6 to place. 3. So that square's a 3 or a 6. It's far from clear where you have to look here. Now 1 has to be in one of those 2 squares. Look. Maybe there's something I'm meant to know about. Is it something to do with... No, it doesn't. I don't think it is the German Whispers line. I was wondering about the thermometer line. This being a 2. So this square can't be a 3. This square has to be at least a 4. And if this is at least a 4, these 2 have to be at least a 5. Which is restricting 3 a little bit in this box, but not enough, I don't think. I think 3's still got 3 possible places. Oh, 3, here we go. 3 in box 2 has to be here. This is nice, because 3 can't go there in box 8. It's too close to the... You can't put 2.5 on the thermometer there, so that's got to be a 3. Now that might be enough to get me the 3 in this box. No, but it does mean the 3 is in one of those 2 positions, which does place the 3, look, in box 7. This is very intricate. Now, does this matter? I don't know. Let's have a think. So this square now has to be at least a 4. So this square has to be at least a 5. Yeah, that's important. Good grief. Yeah, I think this is right. Let's just bear with me while I go through the logic again. This is a 2, so this square has to be higher than 2, but can't be 3. So it could be 4, but whatever, this square is at least a 5. Now, where do you put 4 in this box? There's only 2 positions, and they're the same positions you've got 9s in. So this has become a 4-9 pair, I think, which means this square is a 4, which actually is going to put more pressure on this square, because this square now cannot be a 4 and has to be at least a 5, so this square's gone up in value. And in fact now, I see, we now know what this combination is, because if we look at the box, we've not pencil marked 5 and 6, so this is a 5-6 pair, but we've now proved this square is at least equal to 5. So this square must be a 6, this must be a 5, this must be a 5. And all of a sudden we have a tiny bit of progress. Maybe it's all going to run dry very quickly. This 5 is seeing the Death Star's laser, so that's become a 7. 7 lives at the top of the grid in box 3. This 6 is seeing that square, which is now a 5, look. That places 5 in box 3. Those 2 squares have got to be a 6-8 pair, which we can do. Great. just because of this 6 here, and that 8 is placing an 8 here on the German whispers line, doing nothing, but never mind. 8 has got to be in one of 2 places in box 9 now, and this square's got to be a 9 by our old friend Sudoku, which means these 2 squares are what, a 4-7 pair, and this 7 is giving us the 8 and the 7 at the bottom. That means that's an 8 by Sudoku, and these 2 squares are a 2-6 pair which we can fill in. Lovely. Now these, can we keep this going? We should be able to get this digit. That should not be challenging. 2, 6 and 9 to place. Well, this square definitely can't be a 2, and neither can that one. So that's a 2. This becomes a 6-9 pair. And bizarrely, the thermometers don't seem to fix that. Okay, but this 2 is lovely because that gets us the 2 and the 1 over in this box, which gets us a 1 here. Now in this box we need 3s, 7s and 9s. This square can't be 7 or 9, it has to be a 3. Which gives us a 3 here. This 5, 6 fixes the 6 and the 9. This square's a 7 or a 9. That probably is resolved, I just can't see how. Yeah, hang on, that's got to be a 4 now. So we now know that the consecutive sequence at the top of the grid is a 5-6 pair. That's a 4-7 pair. Do we know what's going on in this column? We need 4s, 5s. Yeah, we do. That's a 4. That's a naked single. Can't be 5 or 6. So this square down here has got to be 5 or 6. And the 4 and the 9 are resolved. And that square's an 8 by Sudoku. And this 6 is giving us a 3 here. So this should be a 7 or a 9, which we may not be able to do. Maybe now we look at row 8 of the grid. Perhaps we need 4, 5 and 6. That's a 4 or a 6. That's a 4 or a 5. That's a 5 or a 6. So this square is now known to be an 8. 5, 6s, 7s and 9s. So this is 5 or 7. And this square, we're going to end up with a fully pencil marked grid here. I'm not sure what I've missed, but 6, 7 or 9, is that? Oh. The German whispers? No, that's not going to resolve it. It must be this thermometer, I think. So how do we do this? We've got... yeah, okay. If this square's a 5, you have to put a 4 here because you have to put a lower digit on the thermometer. But if this is a 5, that's a 4 just by Sudoku, so you'd end up with 2 4s in row 8. So this is not 5, this is 7, which gives us a 9 and a 6, a 4 and a 5, and that looks like we have found the key. Let's check, let's keep going. 6, 5, 6, 5. Now I am the master. Absolutely lovely puzzle. Really, really clever logic throughout. Really impressive construction. Not just the Death Star, but the Sudoku as well. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. I do look forward to them. And yeah, and we'll be back later, of course, with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.